The reason why we are so passionate about being a solution engineer is because we get to see the world from two views. The world from the business view and the world from the engineering view. We're putting it in 10. The reason, the context, why are we actually building this? And once you have that part, it actually makes your work, it actually makes your life, it actually makes your impact way much more meaningful, because then you know that you're actually bringing value and meaning to people's life.
To start, I'm going to ask that you abandon what you think you know about solutions engineering. Like me, you've been told by one organization or another the scope and purpose of a solutions engineer. But after preparing today's episode, I can comfortably tell you at Facebook, it's not that.
There are misconceptions out there, right?
We see technical responsibilities or only business responsibilities.
Job titles which are similar to solutions engineer, but they differ in their job description.
Tend to be more reactive.
Pre or post sales involved.
Moved away from the day-to-day coding.
You always don't have that holistic view.
And that could really be further from the truth.
In Facebook, our solutions engineers are more technical.
As well as understanding that strategic roadmap.
It's a blend of strong engineering skills and business skills.
We have solutions engineers within Facebook who have changed the business of their clients.
Even taking one step further, it's not about just impacting one client or two clients, but how do we impact thousands and millions of our clients?
Today, on the Business, Innovation and Technology podcast, we're going to take a closer look at this misunderstood yet remarkably influential role and the equally remarkable people behind it. I'm Jordan Rogers-Smith. I'd like to welcome you to our show. Today's episode is titled, What It Means to Be a Solutions Engineer at Facebook. Part 1, The Job. To get the most precise picture of this role, we sat down with solutions engineers, recruiters, and various related team members, some of which you just heard from during the introduction. And we simply asked, at Facebook, what is a solutions engineer?
Okay, great question.
Is basically a software engineer who wears two different kind of hats.
You're going to have days where you're coding a lot and then days where you're not doing so much coding.
You're engineering and working with the customers as well.
On one hand, she is working on the technical problems.
Translating business needs to technical solutions.
Writing scalable production code across Facebook's platform.
On the other hand, she's working with the business level clients.
Attending customer meetings, understanding their business strategy.
Able to communicate the technical topics to non-technical audiences.
Our solutions engineers are all-rounders.
They have to have, excellent engineering skills, strong business acumen, and an entrepreneurial mindset.
There are project managers, product owners, developers, engineers. For the solutions engineering role, that is a combination of all of them.
So, those are the broad strokes, the big picture understanding of how we define what a solutions engineer is and what it isn't. But ultimately, that's just a job description. If we want to understand what the role means, especially to the people in it, we need to come down from this bird's eye view and see what it's like on the ground. Because what makes working for a company worthwhile isn't the title, the job, or the prestige. In the words of one team member,
People are really our assets. It's not the technology, it's not the IP, it's not the solution, it's really people. So we really treat the team members as our assets.
That's Shue Ching Chia. And if you can't tell already, he's incredibly passionate about this. There's a reason for that.
I think this actually has to put in context with the culture and also the landscape of Singapore 5 years ago.
Between 2016 and 2017, the jobless rate in Singapore hit a 6-year high, which would only be outdone by the global pandemic 3 years later. Layoffs were spiking and job opportunities were shrinking.
In a very typical traditional local company mindset, Singapore, they don't treat engineering resource as actually an asset.
Shue Ching had been working for the same research institute for over 4 years. And each year, as his role began to stagnate against the backdrop of growing unemployment, he began to ask himself,
is this actually the type of life I want to be? And after a lot of encouragement, obviously from my wife, I was actually looking around at various opportunities. While looking at Facebook, I actually come across this profile called Solutions Engineering.
The atypical nature of the role may have been what caught his attention. However, Shue Ching saw much more than just a novel job description.
So when I see the job scope, I actually see the whole compensation package, I see the career path, I got really excited because I think that is actually way much more than what the current company has. And I think it's actually also above the market trend of what typically engineers will actually receive. So of course, when the decision came, I was being offered, I was really excited. I remember me and my wife, we went down to one fancy restaurant in one of the more expensive areas, and then we were having a small celebration. I think this is actually really a fun moment.
5 years after that celebratory dinner with his wife, Shue Ching is now a solutions engineering manager, helping other team members grow and succeed.
Facebook managers are really a bunch of very, very caring folks. We really put the success of our team members as our first and foremost focus, because we believe that when we enable and help the team members to be successful, the managers will then be successful.
As he mentioned earlier, people aren't a cost, but an asset. That's a distinction worth noting. You cut costs, but an asset is something you want to grow, something into which you invest. You might be thinking, sure, every organization invests in growth. That's the whole point, right? And it is. However, the bar for success can often feel like it has less to do with an individual, but instead how close one might fit a predetermined standard. Those all too familiar, yet unsaid archetypes within our industry, don't sleep, don't have families, and output at all costs for the sake of some annual growth metric. So what happens when we take the same drive for growth, that same investment, and rather than directing it at the annual bottom line, we aim it at the unique value of the individual? How many of us have even considered what it would be like when a team member is not a value drain, but a value add?
Think about provide great coaching, think about their career growth. It's not about only things that people are very good at, but I would say it's more important about what people really enjoys doing.
This brings us to what I think is one of the most fascinating aspects of the solutions engineering team. Part 2, career advancement.
Ultimately, it's your career's in your hands.
How do you determine success as an individual, and your manager and the ecosystem will support you to get there?
We have an individual contributor ladder, and then we have a leadership ladder.
There's no change in the compensation. So when you switch from an IC to a manager, you get the exact same pay, the exact same bonuses, the exact same stock options.
Nobody's forced into being a people manager here at Facebook.
We have solutions engineers, solutions architects, and then we have solutions engineering managers.
You can actually grow your career to whatever level that you want to be.
So it depends on how the interests are aligned for a solutions engineer and at which level they are coming in the company.
You're able to stay with what you're good at.
So there is no shortage of interesting work and the impact that you can make as you keep growing.
Who you are is intrinsically significant as a solutions engineer. Not merely to gauge how you can better fit the role, but to determine how the role can best fit you. And I believe this is a crucial piece of the puzzle that can be really hard to communicate. We can outline the definition, list the job, publish a blog, yet there are simply things you cannot capture in code or copywriting, like what a working mom, a French CTO, and an undergrad student all have in common.
Our mission isn't to be a public company. Our mission is to make the world more open and connected. In the past 8 years, all of you out there have built the largest community in the history of the world. You've done amazing things that we never would have dreamed of. And I can't wait to see what you guys all do going forward.
Amidst the excitement and energy of Facebook's IPO in 2012, Christine Liu, now a solutions engineering manager, was only a computer science and operations management undergrad. At the time, she was going in for her interview with Vatsal Mehta, the now Vice President of Business Engineering. Stepping up to the Facebook campus at the time, with a small notepad in hand, she couldn't have known how much the interview would show her about the role and Facebook itself.
The recruiter walks me and she couldn't find the room. And she was like, oh, I think it's back here. She took me behind the kitchen, and it was like the storage room for the kitchen. I think they got something messed up in the system, but this is just how Facebook runs, right? Very scrappy.
There, surrounded by cans of vinegar and baking soda, Christine started her journey into solutions engineering using nothing but that small notepad she'd brought with her. Not only was this a new role for Christine, it was an emerging role in the industry.
And this was at a time when the org was really scaling. So when I joined, I was the 12th person. And by the time I was a manager, we were maybe 30 or 40.
Now Solutions Engineering is a global team with hundreds of members. But as much as they've grown over the years, Christine believes that scrappy nature is still there.
What I love about it is that there's no set roadmap that has been brought from tops down or whatever that you need to kind of check the box on. Ideas that people have can turn into reality very quickly, and it's still that culture where we're very scrappy in where these ideas come from. Anybody can kind of bring them to light.
Facebook is also a company that's very heavily focused on having the right internal culture.
That's Yannick Mahé, as Solutions Engineering Manager. Where Christine joined Facebook fresh out of her undergrad, Yannick had already established his career as a CTO in France before joining Facebook.
I'll be honest, I never saw myself working for a big company.
Not only did this role challenge his view of what working for a big company could look like, but it presented a new challenge for him professionally too.
I had done the CTO thing and director of engineering thing. This was completely new, and this was going to be very different. I also liked the idea of working for a very global company, which is why I'm right now in Hong Kong and not in France, because I want more exposure to the rest of the world.
Before we get to Hong Kong, we have to take you back to the Paris office, where Yannick was a solutions engineering manager looking after Southern Europe for over a year. Though he had long desired to see more of the world, his role in the Paris office was strategic, and the work he was doing was important. And it can be difficult knowing what to do in such a situation. So who should enter Yannick's story but our value evangelist from part 1, Shue Ching.
Having a conversation with one of my peers, actually Shue Ching, who was looking after the greater China scope, I understood that the role in Hong Kong was open. And that, unlike what I was previously believing, my level of Chinese made it possible for me to apply.
And with Shue Ching's support and the support from his manager in Paris, Yannick applied, got the position, and relocated to Hong Kong. But that can't be the end of the story, can it? If you're like me, you can't help but wonder when the other shoe is going to drop. And if you've ever left a team or moved to a different department, you've probably already asked the question in your head, where is all that tension?
I think one of the nicest things about my story is that I had so much support just switching roles for no other reason than I would like the other role. Both roles were strategic, both roles were important, but because the scope is different, that has changed my day-to-day completely. And it has been a way more fulfilling position for me. I'm not saying this is the best role, I think this is the best role for me.
Yannick's transfer doesn't make for a compelling blockbuster narrative, or the headlines of news articles. But that's kind of the point. A lack of drama and a sense of personal worth isn't the stuff of movies, but they make for a great working environment.
We think that means openness. We think that means sort of people, in a sense, assuming good intent, being nice to each other. Conversations are constructive and civil, and you're constantly talking with smart people, and that's a very nice highlight as well. So all this together builds a very positive and very encouraging culture.
I love the culture here in Facebook. Solutions engineering team to me is really a big, huge family.
This is Qile He. She's a solutions engineer, and as you'll see, family is a recurring theme in her story. However, it didn't start there. For Qile, it began in investment banking.
I was coming from a investment banking background, so it's very different industry, and I really had zero knowledge of how everything works in the ads industry.
A lack of ads experience is not a barrier to entry for new solutions engineers. During their onboarding and training, they go through a boot camp of sorts to bring them up to speed and get them familiar with Facebook's SE vocab.
So I found that really helpful. Now on top of that, we also have SE buddies, so who are your mentor basically to give you that dedicated time to guide you through this onboarding period. I was able to manage it pretty well, and I didn't feel very much stressed.
And after 1 year in a new role, at a new company, within a new industry, Qile started another new adventure, During her second year at Facebook, she became a mom. Now, 3 years later, you can't help but see the connection between her love for the culture of this team and its impact on her home life.
Being a working mom with a 3-year-old, I don't feel like that I would have to sacrifice my time with my family in order to do more work. We have very good benefit on maternity leave, and there are a lot of amazing facilities on site for nursing moms as well. And I was really surprised to see all the equipment back there when we were all in the office. I don't think I've ever felt guilty to take time off to take care of my family, to take care of my kid.
Qile has been a mum for 3 of her 4 years as a solutions engineer at Facebook. Throughout that time, she's never had to question her role as a mother. Instead, she had the support that she needed, not just to start a new job, but to start her family too.
As you might understand, that solutions engineering is kind of not confusing, but kind of not so clear if you just put it out there on the job ad.
This is a unique profile. Not everybody is aware of what solutions engineering at Facebook does, and we do the best we can as a recruiting team to help you understand.
At the top of the episode, I asked you to reconsider what you think a solutions engineer is at Facebook. We hope this episode will provide something a job ad can't. That is, to dissuade the misconceptions, to give clarity, and most importantly, share stories from within our team. We hope to take a larger-than-life role and showcase the real people who make it happen. People like you.
The roles and responsibilities of solutions engineering, when you read them on paper, it's very daunting because it looks like we're trying to find somebody who can do everything perfectly. And in reality, we're looking for the strengths that you have and how we can kind of place that within the teams. I think it's still valuable to apply for the role, to have a conversation with a recruiter, even if you feel that you don't necessarily tick all of the boxes and being able to do each and every line item. We know that that's not going to happen.
In other words, that case you're preemptively making in your head to disqualify yourself, put that on hold.
Ask yourself what will actually be your true passion.
And if you're beginning to feel like this might be the role for you, I suspect the next few minutes will be significant. Who knows?
It could be the turn point of your career, so seize every single opportunity and make sure you're well prepared.
Part 3. Advice for prospective solutions engineers.
It's not easy to be a solutions engineer, but it's not impossible.
We're very bold in our decisions. We move very fast, but for the type of candidate who would come in and who would be passionate and wants to grow their career, the ecosystem is fully supportive of that.
If you're interviewing here at Facebook, we send you a lot of great information.
We're always expanding and looking for that great talent.
It's a great engineering opportunity. Don't think about the fact that the title doesn't say it's a software engineer.
We are looking for technically sound coders, programmers who love programming, who love coding, who love to have an impact by solving problems and solving challenges.
So I would just encourage, the preparation from a coding perspective, and then asking as many questions as you can during the entire interview process.
Talk to as many solutions engineers as you can and ask for help from them first and foremost.
Be yourself, right? I think this is really the purpose of the interview, is to know the true you.
Somebody who's self-driven and really motivated to excel, it's perfect for them.
I feel happy every day that I wake up and I need to work on something is on my plate.
The more that I've been involved in this role, I think the more that I, loved it.
The reason why we are so passionate about being a solution engineer is because we get to see the world from 2 views. The world from the business view and the world from the engineering view. We are putting it in 10. The reason, the context, why are we actually building this? And once you have that part, it actually makes your work, it actually makes your life, it actually makes your impact way much more meaningful, because then you know that you're actually bringing value and meaning to people's life.
During a tech conference in 2016, Vatsul Mehta addressed why his team, Solutions Engineering, solves problems through code. His reasoning? A great meeting only helps a single customer, but a piece of code can help all global customers. And if that gives you a pause, or if you start to second guess your ability as an individual to make such an impact on a global scale, there's one piece of Vatsal's talk that you should hear for yourself.
As a diversity candidate myself, I will say that we hold ourselves back. We try to only stick our neck out when we are 100% confident, when we think that this is something that we are absolutely sure of. This is something that a lot of people that I mentor also suffer from. So this is one advice for everybody. There is nothing wrong in sticking your neck out and trying to achieve something more than what you think is possible.
So are you ready to do more than what you think is possible?